Hello and welcome to Vacations by Tiffany. I'm your go-to travel agent specializing in cruises, Disney, and more. In this episode, I'm giving you 15 tips for your next cruise. Let's jump in with number 1, drink packages. Each cruise line is different, and even if you don't drink alcohol, you might want a drink package that includes things like coffee, bottled water, and fresh squeezed juices, just to name a few. A tip I always say is to do the math. So if a cocktail is about $10 and the alcohol package is $90 per person per day, then you'd have to drink 9 cocktails a day to make it worth it for you. I've tried a variety of packages, and for me personally, I choose the non-alcoholic package, and then throughout my cruise, I'll buy a couple of margaritas or a couple glasses of wine on an a la carte basis. Be aware because some cruise lines do not have drink packages at all. Also be sure to check on the cruise line's website because you may be able to carry on wine and beer on the day that you embark. Tip number 2 is to book far in advance and make payments. For example, the new Disney Wish is out and I booked my cruise almost 500 days in advance. That's a year and 4 months. Sometimes you can even do a year and a half or more. And what that does is give you all that time to make monthly payments. So when your cruise rolls around, it's paid off and you can have that much more fun. Always double check with your cruise line that you can in fact do that. And sometimes certain deals are even on a pay in full basis, so always be sure to double check. Number 3 in my list of 15 tips for your next cruise is about formal and theme nights. If your cruise has a formal night, it might be optional or say dress your best, in which case resort casual is usually fine. You can go all out with tuxedos and ball gowns if you want to. There's also theme nights that you might want to be aware of so you can pack appropriately. There might be a white clothing party, tropical shirt night. There's Scarlet Night, for example, on Virgin Voyages. Some cruises have 70s or 80s nights, and Disney Cruise Line has a pirate night. All of which you're encouraged to dress up and have lots of fun. All right, time for tip number 4 is to purchase your shore excursions through the cruise line. I was once on a cruise and someone had a medical emergency, so we skipped that port on one of the days. My shore excursion was booked through the cruise line, so they were able to put my money right back on my card and I didn't have to do a thing. On another trip, I was in Alaska and a family member's shore excursion was canceled due to weather. Again, they had booked it through the cruise line, so the money was put right back on their card and they didn't have to lift a finger. Now before I get to number 5, I want to let you know that I have a playlist full of cruise tips with lots of videos about other tips for your cruise. Tip number 5 is to get a later port arrival time so that you can go straight to your cabin. When you check in for your cruise, usually a week or 2 before setting sail, depending on the cruise line, you can choose your port arrival time. I like to pick something later in the list of times, and sometimes it works out perfectly that you'll step right onto the ship at the time that your cabin is ready. Now, all of this is subject to change, and there has been times that it didn't work out. This is also a tip for those traveling with just 2 adults. Which brings me to tip number 6. If you have children or you're traveling in a larger group, arrive as early as possible. Quite the opposite of tip number 5. Get there as early as you can so you have plenty of time to check in, get on the ship, and maybe even have some lunch. You can even sometimes have lunch in the main dining room, which brings me to tip number 7. Cruise line loyalty programs. Usually, a loyalty program starts when your first cruise is over. However, when you book your cruise, you'll create a login and may start to get some perks before you even step on board. My advice is also to pick one or maybe two cruise lines and only sail with them to build up those points and get the big perks even faster. Now for tip number 8, get travel insurance. I have this tip even before COVID, but it couldn't be more true now. And be sure to read the fine print to see what it covers. Anything can happen before or during a cruise, so my advice is to always get insurance. Tip number 9 in my 15 tips for your next cruise is to bring your kids to the kids club. There's well-trained counselors and lots of really fun things to do. They usually split them up by age groups, so your kids might even make some lifelong friends. Tip number 10 is that you can usually order more food at dinner. Let's say you can't decide between 2 appetizers, well, get them both. If you're not a big fan of the dinner that you did order, ask your server if you can maybe get something different. A lot of times they're very accommodating. Or maybe you just want a salad or dessert because you had a very delicious lunch and you're still full. That works too. Tip number 11 is to book your next cruise while you're still on your current cruise. You can sometimes get great deals or a lower deposit rate. Tip number 12, you can spend as much or as little as you want. You don't have to order any drinks or dine in any of the specialty restaurants or get massages or even get any shore excursions. But on the other end of the spectrum, you could get a suite, you could get massages and pamper yourself in many more ways. Tip number 13, the ship is just as important as the itinerary. Maybe it's just a weekend getaway and you just want a pool and a casino. Or maybe you're going to Europe and you want to spend as much time on the shore as you can. Or perhaps it's your 5th Caribbean cruise, but you really want to sail on one of those mega ships. Well, my advice to you is to research the ship just as much as you research the destination. Number 14, give the ship-to-shore phone number to a friend or family member who is not traveling with you. Every cruise line has an emergency number, so check online for it and give it to a friend or family member so that they can reach you if something happens back on land. Of course, if you have Wi-Fi, they might be able to get a hold of you, but it's always a good idea just in case of any emergency. And last but not least, number 15 is to book your cruise through a travel agent. If you know one, great, give them a call. They're usually filled with lots of advice and can help you answer all of your questions. If you're looking for a travel agent, visit my website and contact me. Well, that wraps up 15 tips for your next cruise. Check out my playlist right here on my channel to find out more information and tips all about cruising. Thank you very much for watching. To support my channel, please like and subscribe. If you're looking for a travel agent to help plan and book your next cruise, visit vacationsbytiffany.com to contact me. See you next time.